Disability news, disability news. It's news and views for you. It's disability news. Today on Disability News, Greece is using brand new technology to make their beaches more wheelchair accessible. Why the right to repair should become law because it could save disabled people's lives. A disabled woman is forced to sleep in hotel dining room when her accessible room was not available. And transport for London's jazzy new signage. But what does this mean for people with hidden disabilities? Hello my wonderful friends and welcome back to another episode of Disability News. If you missed the first episode, then you can catch it here. If not, then please give this video a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and if you've really enjoyed it today, why not give me a little super thanks. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear the word beach, I think not accessible. You may have seen in my series Traveling to Australia that we visited a couple of beaches. And the beaches over in Australia are becoming a lot more accessible. There is a dedicated wheelchair ramp down to the beach. Sean generally has to carry me on the beaches.
Oh, mate!
And it is very, very difficult for me to access, and I feel quite vulnerable and quite helpless when I'm on the beach. One of the things that really puts me off using one of the beach wheelchairs at, say, Bondi, for example, is we have to go to the lifeguard, we have to ask them, they, I think, push us, or Sean has to push me, and it really takes away my independence. They're also usually brightly coloured as well, and it draws a lot of attention. But Greece is pioneering the way with their new technology called ACTrack. They have installed over 194 of these solar-powered tracks across some of their beaches and in the surrounding countries as well. They're also improving infrastructure with more accessible toilets, changing rooms and parking spaces as well. From the look of things, they look pretty straightforward to use. You have a remote control and you press the remote control and you are slowly glided into the sea, where at the end you can either sit in the chair and cool off, or you can swim straight into the sea. These sea chairs look relatively easy to transfer into. They run along a wooden decking, and what I really like about these is that they make the user completely independent. You don't need to rely on anyone to use these chairs if you can transfer into them. To use these sea tracks, it's very simple. You have a remote control. The remote controls are sometimes located on the beaches. However, if they are not, then you can plan your journey, and before you get there, they can have a remote control delivered to your hotel. I believe it takes around 3 days, but don't worry, I will leave the website address in the description, so if you are thinking of going this year, then make sure to check this out and send me a picture. Have you heard of the right to repair movement? It's the idea that we should all have access to repair our electricals, which would cut down on waste and pollution and even save us money. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever an electrical item of mine meets its untimely death, I'm often met with, "Oh well love, it's probably going to cost you more to repair it than it is to buy a new one." With the right to repair legislation, it will give consumers the access to parts, tools, software and paperwork needed to perform any repair services themselves. Now this could be fantastic news for people who use electric mobility aids. Bruce Goen from Denver has MS and he relies on his power chair. If his power chair breaks down, Bruce is left bedbound, and this can put him at risk of pneumonia, which can be fatal. If and when his chair does break down, he's often met with extremely long wait times to get it fixed. Waiting for insurance approval, then ordering and sourcing parts from manufacturers, which can take months. Manufacturers have shown that the right to repair is doable. There's no more excuses. Right to repair needs to become law. It could save lives. This next story was brought to my attention by the Instagram account Scope, where they reported that a disabled lady named Kat Watkins, who uses a ventilator to breathe at night and has brittle bones disease and is a full-time wheelchair user, had to sleep in the restaurant of a hotel because her accessible room that she booked prior was out of order. Kat and her PA, they travelled from Wales to London to see James Bay in concert at the Royal Albert Hall. They had meticulously planned their journeys, planned all of the routes to make sure it was step-free and accessible, thus choosing the travel lodge that they chose. When they arrived at the hotel at check-in at 3 p.m, they were told that the room that they had booked was out of order. However, there is a family room available which you can use, or we can book you an accessible room at Twickenham. They decided to use the family room, which at the time wasn't available. However, they weren't able to access the bathroom there. They decided to go to the concert, and when they came back, they were told that the family room had actually been given to someone else. This is now midnight. The receptionist offered to book a wheelchair accessible taxi for Kat and her carer to go to a nearby hotel. However, the taxi never came. They were then forced to sleep on the sofas in the hotel restaurant. They weren't offered any water, they weren't offered any pillows or any duvets. They had to ask for them themselves. Kat was left struggling to breathe and in excruciating pain, which I can completely sympathise with. After a few very uncomfortable hours, people then started to come down for their breakfast, where Kat felt extremely vulnerable as people were piling into the restaurant. It later transpires that the room that was out of order just wasn't clean. When Kat was trying to explain all of these issues, she said that the receptionist and the staff tended to speak to her carer rather than to herself. After this experience, Kat has been left with more pain than she already had, and she's felt extremely traumatised. Travel Lodge offered her a free breakfast, a £50 voucher and a refund for her stay, and they issued a statement. On this rare occasion, we failed to meet our normal high standards of service. We should have informed Miss Watkins ahead of checking in that her room was out of order and that we have moved her booking to one of our nearby hotels. Just a couple of things to notice there. It is not easy for people with disabilities just to change hotels, especially when you have to meticulously plan your routes to make sure that they are accessible when using public transport. Another thing that I would like to point out, it says, on this rare occasion we failed to meet our normal high standards of service. However, since speaking to a lot of my followers on Instagram, lots of you have come back with very similar stories from the same chain of hotel and also other chains as well, where the accessible rooms have been given to someone else who may not even have a disability. They're often given to families who may not have disabilities. And I've also alarmingly heard that some chains of hotels look at the date of birth of the person staying in the room, and if they assume that they are not old enough, then they will give the room to someone else who may be more deserving. So much more work and awareness needs to be raised around the travel industry and disability. It is a booming market at the moment. Disabled people want to travel. We want to have the same equal opportunities as anyone else. I really hope that with some basic training, hotels really understand the importance of these accessible rooms and who they should be given to and why they should be kept clear of non-disabled people. Transport for London have launched a colourful campaign across their public transport. Transport for London is responsible for moving 1.4 billion people across London a year. This colourful campaign was developed by VCCP and Toby Triumph. Have any of you seen these? I love this really bright, engaging pop art kind of style signage. Its aim is to get people to be a little bit more kind, a little bit more considerate when using public transport, to give everyone a much smoother ride. And this one really caught my attention. It says, be considerate to others, and then in smaller letters it says, not all disabilities are visible. I can't imagine how hard it must be for people with invisible disabilities travelling on public transport. It is one of my least favourite things to do as a person with a visible disability, because access and attitudes just aren't quite there yet. However, I do feel like having big signage like this, which is bright, colourful, modern and engaging, just gives people a little bit more awareness, a little bit more understanding, and could spark something in someone's head. I would love to know, what do you think of these signs? Do you think it is a good idea? Do you think it is a step in the right direction? I would love to know if you have tried the beach wheelchairs in Greece. And I would love to know, have you been impacted by the right to repair movement? Have you been able to repair anything yourself? Do let me know in the comments, have you ever had a negative interaction when you have gone to book an accessible room? Have you been left high and dry without a room in the middle of the night? Or have they gone above and beyond to accommodate your needs? As always, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you will enjoy this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next one. Bye!